I have a horrible feeling that I may have killed the stream by accident. So I think when I was bumbling around trying to find the BRB button, it's next to the stop button, and I pressed the stop button instead. So then I quickly started it up again. Hello, CS Gaming. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining. We are working through the chain of responsibility design pattern today in PHP. The chain of responsibility, just to do a quick little recap, let's go back to the code here. There's the code window. The chain of responsibility is a way of palming off the responsibility of checking a value or doing something to a value or variable or something in a succession of classes. So, for example, think of a linked chain, and each link in that chain is a class, and each of those links is doing something, checking something against the value that you supply, and if that link sees the request as acceptable, it then passes that off to the next link down into the chain, all the way to the bottom of the chain. So you can have as many links as you want. And it's very useful when you've got really horrible if statements where you've got if, else if, nested ifs, all of this crazy stuff. This makes it a little bit more easier. It follows the solid principles, the single responsibility pattern here. So, each link in the chain should really do one thing and one thing well, and then pushes that off to the next link in the chain. The way we have it working here, just as a concept, is that we have our handler. The handler handles the links in the chain using this handle method. Each class that extends the handler, because it is abstract, requires a process method. And what we're doing here, this is final, so this means that this can't be overloaded. This is our kind of traffic light system, if you will, where we're saying that we're going to deal with we're going to process the value and we're going to get a response back. If the response is true and we do have a successor, which is the next link in the chain, then we pass this value back to its successor, and then we handle that off, and then at the end of it we return the response. This means that we can have these handlers here, and these handlers will have to have the process methods because they are extending the abstract handler. And then in the process, we do various processes. So this one here is checking the length of the string. This one here is checking the value of the string, and so on and so forth. And then when we set this all up in the client, what we're doing here is we're instantiating all of the handlers, and we're setting their successors. This is the order in which the responsibility gets checked, and then we run the first handler and we run handle. And then what this will do, because that's the abstract one, it will run handler, run the process. This is on the first one here, so this is going to run this process here. And then what the handler will do is check that there is a successor, which we have to find. If we go here, we do set successor. And then what that is therefore doing is it's then saying, well, this is true, the response of that is true, and we do have a successor, it is not null, and therefore we can then go, okay, this successor, handle that. Okay, we've just handled it, we'll push you off to the next one, and then the response is then returned. So this is our nifty little sort of system mechanism of passing the buck, as it were, to the next handler. Okay, so this is not real world. This is a concept. So what I want to do is change this up to be a concept, to be a real world, to make a little bit more sense, because at the moment we're just passing in the value of A, which isn't great. Let's say, for example, this was actually checking some sort of login, right? So this was handling login. Now, there's various different ways of checking logins. Let's say, for example, it was doing some form of authentication, and therefore we needed to make sure that there was the relevant roles required for this. So for the user, so let's say, for instance, we instead of passing in the value of A, we pass in a username, username, and we pass in a password like so, right? So I'll just make all these up. So let's do username is equal to, let's say, Peter. Password is equal to 1234, because that's not a great password. Let's do password 1234. Password 1234. I'm intentionally making this really bad. Because what I want to do is I want to have a way of handling whether they're using bad passwords or not. So, okay. The first handler, we're going to check whether the user exists. So let's change this class to be user exists handler. All right. And user exists handler is going to take the username and the password, because we do need to take in both of those things. They do need to be the same throughout. This is going to be blank by default. Let's tackle this. This needs to be a string. This is the username, another string. This is the password. And again, what we need to do is we need to pass in that up there, and we need to pass in the handle. Yeah, username, password in there. We don't need to define the actual types in here though. And we don't need to define their default values either. Up there. There we go. Okay, so it's going to then run the process method. So we're now in the user exists handler. This is the first handler. And what we're doing is we're going to say whether or not if this username exists on the system. So this is where it's going to check the user. So let's do something like user is equal to, and let's say it is going to get, if we did a private users here, a private users array. Let's say, for example, one of these users is Peter. Next one is, let's just have Jim, whatever. So we can then do if users, if in array, and let me think, is that the needle, and then the needle here is the username. The haystack is the thing we want to check, which is this users. There we go. So if in array, and again we could tidy this up as a ternary if we wanted to, return ternary, I should say. If that is in an array, then we just return that. There we go. So it's either going to be true or false, which means that we need to change that to be lowercase. Okay, so that's going to return, it's going to check whether the user exists. Now, imagine, if you will, this comes back from some database, right? I'm just putting this up here as a check. Now, we haven't dealt with the password yet. Don't worry about that. That's fine. That's just something that we're going to just not worry about at this present second. Okay, so that's checking the username. Next one we can do is we can check the password of that user. So let's do password handler. Password handler here. This needs to be the username. And the password. Again, this needs to be a string. And this needs to be a string. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to, in the user exists, we're going to grab that, and we're going to put this in second handler. That needs to be called password handler, doesn't it? So this is going to be password 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be something completely else. We'll just kill that. There we go. And then in the process, what we're doing is, because we're passing in the password and we've got the user itself, we can then do return this this user's passing in the username, and that will return the password. If that is equal to the password, this is terrible, but you know, just to get something running, you certainly wouldn't do this at all. But you know, so this user's got the username here, and then you got the password. If that is equal to the password, then we return true, and then we return false here. Now, what we want to do is we also, on the third handler, we want to make sure that we want to deal with roles. So if the user on the password handler, let's grab that, on the roles handler, let's change that to be roles, refactor rename, change that to roles. Okay, so I have the role of, let's create this as a nested array. Let's say admin, let's say user, like so. Okay, so then what we can do in the process here, we pass in the username again, and we pass in the password. And we do a check. So what we do is we say roles is equal to this, users passing in the username, like that, and then we do if roles, if in array roles, if in array roles, and the one we want is admin. Okay, and then again, just for clarity's sake, we'll create another user here. We'll call this Jim, and we will only give him the user. We'll give him the user role, right? And we'll do the same with the password handler here. We'll put in another password match thing going on there. This is going to be Jim, and the password here is going to be password ABCD. ABCD. There we go. Password ABCD. All right. Okay. So in the index now, we have our user exists, which is the user exists handler. We have our password handler, which is the password handler. Password handler. Whoopsie. Thank you. And we also have our roles handler. Okay. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to say we need to check the user first. So that's the first one. The last one is going to be the roles handler. So we're going to put this in as the successor of the password handler. And the password handler is going to be the successor of the user exists, which means now that we have our mechanism and we can run the user exists like this, passing in the username and the password. Okay, so let's do that. Let's see if we can get this running. That's localhost. There we go. Okay, so there we go. It's returned true. If I was to change this to be something else, let's do Peter with an exclamation mark. That should return false. It does. Let's say, for instance, we want to change this to have another character in it. That should also return false. So we have our little mechanism now. It now kind of works. We've got the handlers here. And we have a password handler, which is checking the password. We've got the roles handler, which checks the roles. And we have the user handler, which checks that the users are in existence. If I was to change this to be Jim, right, and run this, this would be still false because we're running against the wrong password. This should be ABCD, I believe. ABCCD. Run this, it's still going to fail because we haven't given the right role. The role here we want to use is admin. Let's change that to be user. This should now pass. There we go. So it's a nice little mechanism that you can use, and you can plug things in, and you can plug things in using, you know, setting the successors and stuff here. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so just going through my notes here. Hello, Nippo FTW. Thank you for following. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Very kind of you. Thank you. So, just going through my notes, there is some other bits and pieces. You know, the problem, the messiness in here is that in some cases I'm passing in the password, I'm not doing anything with it, which is a pain. And there are ways that you can get around this by configuring these. For example, one could argue that there's only one, you know, there really is only one need for this. If we're passing this up to the handler here, we might as well just have a protected function. Oh, sorry, a protected property up here, which has the usernames and the passwords in, and then depending on the type of the what we want to get, we can pull these out. Yeah. So you could, if you wanted to, let's say, for instance, let's say there was a user object up here. Let's say, for instance, we had an entity. Let's say we had a user. Let's say, and let's just grab all of this stuff and bung it in. So that's it now, a user. And the user itself had things like a username. This is all, let's do public for now. Public function username. Not function, sorry. Well, yeah. And we do a a public function. Give this a constructor, passing in the username and the password. This is a string. This is a string. We also need roles, don't we? Not a function. It is roles, like this. Okay, and we have roles. this username is equal to username. This password, oops, is equal to password, and obviously this roles is equal to roles. I am also going to change these to be protected rather than public. And what we're going to do is put in some getters and setters. Not a massive fan of getters and setters, to be honest. I'm not going to use Fluent. There we go. Okay, so that's our entity class. And then what we can do now, instead of passing in, we can create our user. We can do user is equal to new user. Yep. And we can pass in the username of, dear, damn it, Peter. Password is something like password 1234, and the roles is an array. We're going to have admin and we're going to have user, like this. Whoopsie. There we go. And we're going to create a new user here. This is going to be user user A. This is user B. And what we can do is, instead of passing in the username and passwords, we can, because we've encapsulated these things, we can pass these in as the handler. The handler here now takes the user. Like that. Which means that we can pass this into the processor, which means that we can pass this in to the handlers, like so. This is the user, like that. There we go. Okay. So now I've got to go through each one of these handlers and go user, like that. And in user, we do get username. If the username is equal to one of those things, then that's good. Okay, that's the first one. Password mechanism. Here we can take in the user, like this, and we do user get username, and so that's the pass. That is that, and we can do user get password. There we go. Okay, next handler is the roles handler. So this one here is another user. Here we go. And we get the username from here, get username. And what we're doing is we're doing the user get roles, because that's going to return the roles, the array of roles. Okay, is that right? Have I done that right? Yeah, that is correct. There's no need for this, is there? No. No, there's no need for that. Thank you, Nippo. That was thank you for that. That's good to hear. Good to hear. Okay, so this now makes it a little bit easier to play with. So let's see if I've got this all wired up correctly. So user A is Peter, and this password, we're going to change this to Jim. We're going to do this to A, B, C, D. This is just going to have a user role. There we go. Do. So change that to user B. This should fail. It does. Wonderful. Sweet. User A, that should pass. And that is our little mechanism, right? That is the way that we can now. We don't need the username passwords up here. That's fine. That is it. That is how we can pass the chain of responsibility by setting these handlers and the successors of those handlers to check the next one. which means that, let's say, for example, we wanted to add another handler, and maybe the handler needed to go in between these. Well, we would do that. We would change the successor in here. We would configure the chain, if you will. But that's that. That is the chain of responsibility in PHP. That is the first design pattern of 2020, the first ever stream of 2020. Which is awesome. We are coming to the end of the behavioral patterns. There are some more that we do need to do. I think visitor pattern is one that I'm going to be focusing on next, I believe. That's a bit of a biggie one. And then we'll crack on with the other types of patterns. So we've got the creational and structural. These, of course, are going to go into the design patterns course that I'm producing, the video course that I'm producing this year, which is super, super good. Wow. Hopefully my cold will go. I've got some announcements before I shoot off. I've got some good news. I've got some news. So let's crack on with the good news first, I think. Let's do the good news first. So the good news is that the Discord server is super, super well. It's doing really well. There's a lovely community in there. We've surpassed 100 users. I think we're on 111 users now, which is super, super cool. And there's a lot of interesting discussions in there about coding, and I'm really, really happy and proud of the way the Discord server is going. Another piece of news is that I've been working really hard this holiday season on content for the tutorials next year. I have all of Q1 lined up. Q1, quarter one, from January all the way into the depths of March. So all of the tutorials, all of the chats and stuff, that's all done, and there's still some that needs to be edited still and uploaded, but they are at least planned, if not recorded, which is so cool. These also include JavaScript, because JavaScript was a requirement or some sort of I did a Twitter poll a while back about what kind of courses or tutorials you would like me to do next year. JavaScript was high on the list, so there's some JavaScript there as well. Okay, so the other piece of news is that we have the Code Challenge coming up. The Code Challenge, if I go to the site here, I tell you what, there is a Discord, not Discord, there is a command here. It's where is it? Codechallenges.net. There we go. Codechallenges.net. There we go. Codechallenges.howtocodewell.net. This is the Code Challenges. The December challenge, because of the way the New Year sort of like was on the days, I'm still yet to do the December challenge. This is going to be on Sunday the 5th. So you've still got this week to get your challenges in. The challenge here is to do a New Year's Eve, a New Year's card, right? The first level is to say Happy New Year from, and then your Discord username or whatever username. Use a nice funky font, make it look pretty. And then level 2 is to make it sparkle, add an image border, and also add fireworks. Bonus points if you don't use JavaScript. So what I'm going to be doing on next Sunday is I'm going to be reviewing the entries. We've had some awesome entries already on the Discord Code Challenges channel. So if you haven't done so already, do consider doing this. And what I'll do is I'll review these, and if we go to the November challenge, you can see we had the challenges there. And what I did is I recorded and clipped the stream, and then I published it to YouTube on the How to Code Well YouTube channel. So this is a super cool way for people to build up their portfolio and to learn how to code in a nice, comfortable environment. This one was the November challenge. It was the Christmas countdown. Christmas seems so far away. Okay. So that's the December challenge. Okay, moving on to some not so well, some mere news. I need to. So I'm a freelancer, and some. So before the Discord channel, before the live streams, I was just pushing out YouTube content. And as a freelancer, when I changed clients and I moved from one project to the other project, there wasn't like there wasn't really any awareness of that. Um, but I guess there's going to be some this year, because obviously with the live coding and the community, it's much closer. And so the thing that I'm going to be losing, I think, is time. Basically, what happened is that one of my clients, through no fault of their own, they and I'm not going to go into any depth or detail here, but they the project didn't go, and so I'm not on as a resource, which means that I need to find another piece of work. Also, I've got other clients, right? But this is quite a big hole in the revenue, shall we say? So I need to find some work, which means that I'm going to go through the period of interviews. I'm going to go through a period of being on site. So I don't really know how this is going to affect How to Code Well, apart from the fact that it'll probably reduce the amount of time I can spend on How to Code Well in the short term, at least. I did a video not so long ago about when you're a remote developer, you need to be on site, right? Normally at the start of a project. And so if I pick up a new project, then obviously that will happen. So the things that will be affected will be the live coding and Discord, because this is me physically, a time box thing, right? Normally what happens is, because I'm a remote dev and I don't have to commute to work, I do these live coding sessions. And obviously when I'm in an office or doing any work, I have Discord off. So that will probably happen. So I basically, what I'm saying here is that in the next months or so, I'm not too sure about the schedule of this. Definitely the Sundays will continue. That's the thing that will definitely continue, the Sunday streams. But please bear with me as things get a little bit sort of like fluid. This is just what happens when you're a freelancer, right? This is just what's happened. The fact is that this happened all the time when I was doing just the YouTube stuff. And what I would do is, where I said earlier that I had all of Q1 sort of in the bag almost. What I would do is I would say, okay, if I can see that like 1 month I'm going to need to be in a particular office, then what I would do is I would move all that content to that month, right? And fill that gap. If I can foresee a gap of not being in a recording studio, if I can see that I'm going to have to be commuting into work, and then I get knackered and tired, plus there's the social stuff, there's all the other aspects to all of this as well, that has a knock-on impact. I was able to fill the gap that you would see on YouTube with all of the content that was already pre-made, that I pre-made over the holidays. This is probably why I'm feeling so run down, because I've done nothing but for the last few weeks. Nobody on the YouTube really kind of batted an eyelid, to be honest, because it wasn't live. But this is live, so you'll see this. This is very obvious. Or why is Pete not streaming anymore, or over these days? And that is because I am looking for a job. So yeah. On the flip side to this, though, this has made me more sort of like more conscious about How to Code Well, and what I want How to Code Well to be. Eventually, I want to do this full time. I want to be writing code for the community instead of writing code for someone else, right? That's essentially what I want to be doing. I want to be building a platform, and I'm hoping that these design pattern courses and the JavaScript course that I plan to do this year will help with that. But one thing I'm going to be doing today is reaching out to sponsors. Yeah, I'm going to be reaching out to some brands, and I'm just going to be saying, look, this is how to code well. This is how it's, where we're at. This is the audience base. Is there a possibility of some collaboration or some sponsorship? If there is the opportunity for that to work, obviously they have to be in line with what the audience wants and stuff. But you may see sponsored videos more. You may see me talking about various different things more to do with that. But I kind of need to. I kind of need to, because I need to. I need some green, man. Otherwise, unfortunately, How to Code Well just isn't going to float, and I need it to float. It's certainly not paying anywhere near where it's not even sustaining itself. I'm sustaining the hosting fees, the podcast fees, all of that stuff, domain names. It's all me. It's all me. All the revenue I get from, say, advertising and the courses that I've done previously, it's just a drop in the ocean, to be honest, compared to how much other things are involved. Plus, then you've got time, excuse me, time and all of that other stuff. So yeah, that's basically it. So the next stream is going to be on the 5th, and this is the December Code Challenges site. This is the, if you go to this URL here, I'll put it into the old chat for you. Do consider joining and becoming a challenger. That would be awesome. And you can join on the Discord server, and you can continue on this discussion on there too. But anyway, I'm going to shoot off because I've got some bits and pieces that I need to work on. Plus, today is technically the first day in the office. Although for me, it was not. It was a good few weeks ago. But anyway, whatever. I will speak to you soon. All right. Happy coding. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.